Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. Abel Pacheco here with the Five Talents Podcast, where we talk about multifamily, commercial real estate investing, path to financial freedom, among other topics. And I'm super excited today. I get to interview Mr. Jens Nielsen, and he's one of those individuals that I remember learning from when I was kind of getting started and kind of heard you on a podcast, Jens. And now, to have you on mine, I'm grateful. I'm humbled, super appreciative. And I look forward to our audience having some exposure to you as well, man.
I appreciate that, Abel. It's fun to connect, and thanks for the call out. It's maybe I should start my own podcast. I've been on so many now, but I haven't taken the leap myself. Right?
It is. It's fun. I just started. Have our first 10 to 14 conversations out there, so I can really see how the longer term journey of continuing on would be awesome. And I know your questions to other people would be valuable. So if you ever take the leap, let me know. I'll be happy to jump on one of yours. But it's kind of it's awesome having you, because I almost felt like I know you, like I've had a conversation with you. We have met once or twice here and there, but just the cycles that I've heard you on some other podcasts, you do start to, I know Jens. I know who he is and what he does. But anyways, it's great to have you on, man. So we'll start with an introduction. I'll just kind of, give our listeners and viewers a little bit of Jens's background. I think it's really awesome. So I know you from Denmark, you moved in 96, right? So
that's right.
Wow. What brought you to the US? What was the big change?
It was really just work opportunities back in the mid 90s there. Actually, I went via London, UK. I left Copenhagen, Denmark at tender age of 24, and then moved to London, England. My English wasn't that awesome, but had to learn quickly. And then on to the US. It was the same company, but it was an American company, and I just got transferred. And so started my life here 24 years ago now. So it's been a while.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's good. We're glad you moved and glad you came over, because you're one of those individuals to learn from now in multifamily. So I know you own like 74 units in New Mexico and Colorado. You're a general partner in addition to that, you're a general partner in 750 syndicated units around the country. So that has a value of like $50 million. And then over the last few years, you've additionally, in addition to owning your own, or owning your own as JV, then syndicating more, you're also a passive investor in like 16 other syndications. So that's another 800 apartment units, 2,000 mobile park lots, and over 6,000 storage units plus. And I think you do also mortgage note funds, private money lending. You're a coach, really passionate, for helping others, enabling others to have success through their strategy, their accountability, personal growth. Man, you are doing some amazing things, man. So let me turn it over to you. Please tell us, more about your story and what you're doing today. Love to hear it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Abel. Yes, I followed the traditional path when I came to the US. I got my degree, and I started working in IT for somebody else, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, right? Get your degree, work, and then saving your 401k. And that worked really well for me for years. But over time, I realized, hey, if I ever want to get out of my W-2 job, if I ever want to kind of move to the next level and not be stuck working for somebody else, I had to come up, become an entrepreneur. And I thought about different things, different ways to do it. Nothing really appealed to me until I discovered real estate, and it hasn't been that long. It's only been like 4.5, 5 years since I really got started in it. And, but I just really dug into it and felt like, hey, this is really the path that I was passionate about, that I could follow. So I just kind of threw myself out there and started buying smaller deals myself, just very early on, just to see how that would look and how to learn from that. So, that was just my initial path into it, was just finding some way to get income and then start buying some smaller units to see how that would work out, right?
So you moved here, 20 years go by, you're in IT, and it wasn't until 4 years later that you really start taking action in the multifamily commercial real estate. Did you buy any single family beforehand, or did you
No.
jump straight into commercial?
Straight in, well, I did a small multifamily, so 4 units and below. I looked at a couple of single family homes, but I knew I wanted to be an investor. I didn't want to be a property as mom and pop owner, right? And I think there's plenty of people that makes lots of money in single family. Nothing against that, but I couldn't really see, man, do I need to buy 100 homes to get a decent income? I wasn't going to do that. So I looked at a few. It's like, no, let me just go to fourplexes. I bought a couple of 4 units of fourplexes, first, just to see how that would work out. And those are the only 2 kind of smaller deals. And then everything has always been 10 units and above since then, right?
Yeah. That's a jump either way, from not buying any piece of real estate as an investor standpoint to a duplex, quad, tens. That, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then if you heard, I think something that Jens said that resonates with me is, you wanted to be an investor, but you didn't want to manage properties. Like, you didn't want to fix toilets or deal with tenants and that kind of stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah, because I felt like then you end up just being so busy working in your business and you can't really grow beyond that. I must say, me and a partner do own a small mobile home park in southwestern Colorado. We were self-managing that one. It's, and it does kind of tend to suck you in at times, but it's relatively low maintenance, so it works out for us. But yeah, I mean, it's really, I think a lot of people, they look at the numbers and it's like, hey man, I got to pay this management company, anywhere from 5 to 10% of the rent, and I could do that cheaper. Maybe you can do it cheaper, but also, what is your time worth? Is your time driving across town to fix a toilet? And, is that worth it versus paying somebody else to do it? And you can go and focus on work that's going to make you $500, $1,000, $5,000 an hour, right? So that's kind of, you need to think about that.
Yeah. And a paradigm, between us both, we were in IT for a number of years. I was in IT for like 13 years as well. You were making some pretty good, change, I would imagine, in your W-2, your profession, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, good money, no question, and bonuses and long-term incentive plans and everything else. But also, I saw the writing on the wall, and I didn't want the golden handcuffs to be too tight, right? Because I'm like, man, it just keeps getting more and more difficult to leave every year, and I just didn't want to go down that. And actually, just a month ago, I went to part-time in my job, so I did give up some of those golden handcuffs, and I was like, man, this is a time to make the move. So I'm already, I'm close to retiring, if you will, right? So That's exciting.
No, that's awesome. You have a lot of experience. Wish you lots of success in that journey, and you're going to do amazing, as you have already done amazing things today, man. I'm excited to see, a little bit more of your time in this realm. So the leap to multifamily, you mentioned a mindset, right? And the golden handcuffs, the entrepreneur mindset, the ability to go create your own way. Share with us potentially some of the, the either obstacles or limiting beliefs, or just the mindset you had to work through to say, you know what, I'm going to go buy a property. I'm going to go buy another one. And you've done that over and over again. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the challenge that a lot of us, we see from society, right? We're expected to work in your job, and and do the things that society expects of you, right? And not to go out there and take what some people consider crazy risk, because the W-2 job is like the safe bet, right? Well, in reality, we know right now with the current situation, it may not be a safe bet and stuff. And if you just rely on one set of income from your W-2 job, if that suddenly ends, you can be in trouble, right? I knew I could always go and get a new job if that was the case, but I was more like, hey, what can I create? What can I go out there and create for me and my family, and some sort of legacy? So that's what I wanted to do. But also, of course, the limiting belief, the fear steps in. It's like, what if I make a mistake? What if the probably doesn't work out? What if I don't know what I'm doing? And those are all things that we all suffer from. But in reality, the way to overcome those limiting beliefs is through education. Once you have some competence, you start developing the confidence to go out there and do stuff, right? So, I know people that go and will syndicate 100 units at their first deal, and great for them. I was like, oh, let me buy, some smaller deals and just see how it works out, risk my own capital and see where that goes, right? And it didn't last, within the first year, I had done my first JV, the first $1 million plus purchase and so forth. And it wasn't long before, I was like, hey, kind of let me grow here. But I just started somewhere, see how it worked out, and try to understand the process and make sure I knew what was going on, really.
Yep. Yeah. All great mindsets. I love the education, confidence. It is one of those things that I preach all the time too, because I lived it. I was really scared, worried, and finally get some more education, and competence and confidence followed. So today, man, it's August 2020. We're like in this crazy pandemic and COVID, and you're leaving your job, or from full-time to part-time, going deeper into multifamily syndications. So you feel confident that you can have success. Some of that goes to maybe your underwriting, or how you're buying the deals, or how you're averting risk, right? So if you could share, with our network, like some of the practices, some of the things that you're doing right now to ensure, we're going to have success.
Yeah. There's obviously, if we were underwriting deals a year ago, we would look at, heavy value add and how can we increase the value significantly, and really give a good return to our investors. Right now, I still think we can look at, is there an upside? Is there a value add component to the deal, right? Because maybe it's just been poorly managed, or just, whatever the upside is, I think that's still there. I'm a little bit more conservative around rent growth right now. So let's try to keep the rent growth, very, 1-2% max, instead of some of those crazy growth we have seen, right? Because the income needs to be able to support that. And we want to make sure that we look at what is our break-even analysis, right? Let's say, can we survive, 70% occupancy and still pay our debt, right? Because that's what's gonna make or break a deal, is the ability to pay the debt, right? So that's another area I look at, and maybe I'll set the expectations to the investors a little bit lower and said, hey, it could take a little bit longer here to generate these returns. It may not be a 5-year hold, maybe a 7 or 10-year hold that we're looking at right now, just to make sure we can generate that value. I think 2011 was probably the best time to buy real estate, multifamily real estate. Right now it's maybe the second best time to buy it. I don't know, and there could be, certainly some opportunities coming up. But we were 5 months, 6 months into this thing, and we're still collecting rents just fine, right? So I'm like, well, is there a crisis coming that we're still not aware of? I don't know, and we just try to prepare and be a little bit more conservative around that.
Yeah. We can't just shut down, the globe, or our U.S. or our economy, or our market or submarket, whichever market or submarket we're investing in, and people have to live somewhere and work somewhere, and we have confidence, or that feeling of, oh, well, if we're not investing in certain luxury products or luxury items, or services that are being cut. It's we're investing in housing. It's a basic need next to food, water, shelter. So it feels good to have our eggs in those baskets, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm glad I'm not a hotel investor. Something like
Oof,
that.
yeah, yeah. Yes. We went to the right I went to the right seminar coaching through the program. I'm glad I didn't go to the hotel one. But
Right.
we got lucky. I did. I will tell you that everything that you said there kind of makes a lot of sense, right? So for the passive investors that are listening, maybe you can give them some nuggets too. So you mentioned break-even analysis or sensitivity analysis. You mentioned value add. So still, we're still trying to push, either rents up, decrease our expenses, increase NOI, but in a different way. You're not planning for as high rent growth bumps. So it's a scaled back percentage. The DSCR, or debt service coverage ratio, which is the break even analysis. How many people can we have to occupy the building, pay rents? What's the lowest number that can still pay off the loan, right? So share with maybe some passive investors, like, how do I find that? I don't know underwriting. I'm a passive investor. This is my first deal. And, how do they even find some of this information if they're investing for their first time? Have some insight
Yeah,
here.
it's a very good question. I've dealt with, or not dealt with, I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of passive investors invest in my deals. And it really goes the gamut of the amount of due diligence people will do. Some they'll just like, oh, that looks good. Here's my money. And other people will ask a tons of questions, right? Obviously, as the syndicator, you have a responsibility towards your clients to say, well, here, we've done our due diligence and our underwriting, and this is why we think it makes sense. But again, it really is the responsibility, in my opinion, of the investor to 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 do their own due diligence and learn something about it, right? Because you're putting 50, 100, $200,000 into a deal, and you should probably do some due diligence. So if you're a passive investor and if it's your first deal, you don't want to spend hours on the phone with the syndicator, because there's probably lots of people lined up to invest with that person, so you may not have a ton of time. But do your own, like, study a little bit, listen to a few podcasts, and just learn the basic things you mentioned there. What is the break-even analysis, the debt service coverage ratio. Just a few things that you can ask intelligent question. You can say, if they haven't put it in their on the offering memorandum, say, what is your break-even point, right? Why are you estimating a 5% rent increase over year? Just some of those questions that can help you understand it a little bit, right? So it's a balance, and then you always want to look at people's track record, and see how have they done in the past, and then say, how are you changing the underwriting now compared to before COVID, so just ask some intelligent questions. Just don't always just trust the glossy brochures, if you will.
You mean just because it's multifamily and it's in a nice investment summary, it's not a winner?
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
I agree wholeheartedly with Jens. We created our first ebook, and it was my first attempt at putting something in writing. But it was this. I started as a passive investor as well, and just kind of have the things that you should do to go look at new deals. So that makes a lot of sense, man. Thank you for sharing. And
Sure.
how many deals does it take you today to underwrite, to actually get one under contract that you love this deal? Are you like 5, 10, 50? Is it 100? What is it like in your world and your markets today?
It's interesting, right? Because and everybody's different. So the way I find deals now is really through strategic partnerships with people. So I have a partner that we've done 2 deals with, and we're working on a contract on a 3rd deal right now. But he's in a market that I really, in the upper Midwest, I like the market, but he has the local knowledge to go and find a deal of properties and deals. I don't really, I'll help him with the underwriting, but we don't look at 100 deals, right? We look at a few number of deals. And then I've had the great opportunity to work with, I do some coaching, and I have some students that I will partner with. So if they come and bring me a deal, 50 or 100 units or 200 units that makes sense, I'll also partner with them on that. So I'm not out there. I mean, I will look at deals in certain markets, but I can usually glance at it and say, oh, $90,000 a door and the rent's of $600. That's not going to work. So I'm just going to pass on it, right? So, I will look at a lot of deals, but I'm not like, I try to once it's been promoted by the brokers and everything else, typically it's too late, right? They're just already too expensive, and it's kind of forget about it, right? So I don't have specific statistics of looking at 100 deals and make offer on one like other people do, right?
Yeah, you've got, but you've got some filters. It sounds like in advance, qualifying opportunities that they probably look through a number. I really like the strategic partnership, point you mentioned. Let's, if we can, for new general partners, right? Let's say I'm invested passively. I have a few hundred doors. I kind of know the world, but I'm trying to get my first deal. That law of the first deal, so hard to get my first one. I leverage strategic partnerships for mine. What insight or advice can you give to somebody that's kind of in that stage? I'm trying to get my first one, my card punched here.
Yeah, there's a few different ways you can approach that, right? If you're in a market that's a great market and other people want into, and you have some sort of local knowledge, like you have connections with the brokers, you're out there hustling, and you can find the deals. A lot of people would love to partner with you if you can find that off-market deal, something like that. So that's a way. And then you bring that deal. You figure out who are the people that are active here. Oh, this and this guy has done several deals. Maybe I can approach this person with this deal. Or, the way I used to do it when we still could go to in-person meetings were just going to real estate meetups and going to conferences and then meet people there and say, how can I add value to you, right? And the way I did initially was through, underwriting, due diligence, raising capital, and that's how I think you do it. So if you're a new guy, just figure out who are doing deals in your market and try to help them. The other way, if you can co-sponsor a deal and you can bring, if you have a bunch of investors on your list and you can bring money to a deal, that's also a way to partner, as long as you do other parts of that deal too, right? So there's many ways of approaching it, but just think about it as a team sport, and you can't do a big deal by yourself, right? So that's what's important.
I'm taking notes if you see me looking down. I wholeheartedly agree. And if you are trying to get your first deal, I would rewind what Jens just said, or take some notes as well. And if you're not, you may be doing this podcast thing wrong, but he had mentioned, networking, getting out there, talking to a bunch of people, letting them know, that he's there. And then he led with value, right? Underwriting, due diligence, raising a little bit of capital. And those things are very valuable to somebody that's in a local market. Another thing, they may have some local expertise. I'm going to go try to find the players that are there looking to more opportunities, and then try to provide them value as much as possible. Hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the 5 Talents podcast. After listening to a few episodes, deep down, do you know that multifamily and commercial real estate investing is one of the best ways to create financial freedom? If you said yes to that question and you are where I was a few years ago, then I'd absolutely love to connect with you. A few years ago, I started personally consuming a ton of real estate education. I traveled all over the country, as many real estate conferences and seminars that I could go to. I took 200 plus hours of real estate education. I spent thousands of dollars along the way. And I did this because I knew the path to financial freedom for me and my family was through commercial real estate and syndication. So if you've made a similar decision, I'd love to connect with you. And potentially in the future, I'd love to partner with you as well. Take a moment, go to 5tcre.com/invest, and I'd love to set up a time to talk. So, right now we're not getting together. We're not shaking hands. We're not in a big group where I can go to a RIA meeting, once a month or once every couple of weeks. So what are you doing today to kind of continue this?
Yeah, it's a challenge, right? So I've gone to some virtual events, spoken with at a few of them, and try to connect that way. I've continued to host like a meetup that I started, so I've been continuing to host that. I've done my own webinars, so I've taken a topic that I was interested in, and I have just gotten an expert on a Zoom call and say, a lender or a broker or a property manager, and just ask them questions questions that I wanted to ask and then add some value that way. So that's more like the thought leadership area of it, like, like your podcast, whatever. But, and I have been fortunate enough that I had a network kind of built up that I've then been leveraging and can continue to work with, right? So, but I can see it's a little more challenging if you're a new person trying to break into it. Yeah, I mean, try to attend virtual meetups and meet people. And what I always do, like I'm on a call and I say, oh, such and such a person mentioned this. I'll write that person's name down and try to reach out to him or her afterward and say, hey, we share this common interest. We want to talk more about it. And that's a great way to connect with people as well.
Absolutely. What did you do? Your role in IT, were you on the sales side, engineering side, software side? What?
More at the engineering side. I'm, database administrator, kind of the systems kind of guy, right? Exactly.
What did you do? What kind of database?
I worked in Oracle and SQL Server.
I knew you were going to say Oracle for some reason and SQL Server. But if you're not an IT guy, just you realize this engineering, DBA, Oracle takes a lot of expertise to kind of master that. And then on the Windows side, the regular SQL, even that is just difficult. So the reason I ask you that is most engineers, or a lot of, in my 13 years, we're not extroverted sales guys, kind of like me, that felt comfortable networking. So did you have struggled, trying to network, or do you still struggle with that, or overcome any of that mindset would be great?
That's an awesome question. Appreciate that. Because yes, I mean, I was for years most comfortable sitting in front of my computer, right? That was my comfort zone. That's where had my expertise. This is where I knew what I was doing, right? But I also, like people, but I felt like, I would go to IT conferences. I was like, man, I had no common interest with any of these people. But then I would go I was like, well, let me step back a little bit. If you want an amazing life, if you want to change, you have to step outside your comfort zone, right? There's no question, right? Because whatever your comfort zone is, only got you as far as you are. If you want to go to the next level, you need to change. You need to grow your mindset. You need to just go and try things, right? So I realized I had to become much more extroverted, right? And the way I did it was like, I'll go to conferences and I would go outside and speak to people in the hallway, right? Just learn, just be interested. And you don't need to be a great communicator. All you need to do is ask people questions like, hey, where are you from? What deals are you doing? What are the challenges you're having? Because people like to talk if you're asking them questions, right? And then I would say, okay, that's awesome, man. So anyway, I can add some value to you, right? And connect that way. And so that was the first way. And then when I felt like I got a little more experience, I would ask my mentor and said, is there a chance I can get on stage, right? Because I knew that was really going to push me to the next level. And luckily he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, speaking in front of 500 people, I was like, oops, a little scary, but
yeah,
if you don't do it, you don't know that you can do it, right? So
yeah, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think that statement, right? If you want an amazing life, you're going to have to step out, of your comfort zone and get, a little uncomfortable is 100% accurate. No matter what level you're at today in your professional entrepreneurship, real estate world, you're going to have to step out of what's comfortable. I love hearing that you kind of stepped out. Hey, I'd like to be on stage if I could. And now you're in front of 500 people talking, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'll add a couple of things to that. So I also, I've been on a lot of podcasts. So I also started reaching out to podcasts like, hey, let me just try to get on a podcast and see how that goes, right? And the other thing I try to do it almost daily, at least, is do Facebook Lives. So I'm like talking on the phone, not on the phone, but on video, trying to become more articulate, trying to, talk about a concept, whatever, and just do stuff. It may be horrible and nobody may be listening, but at least I'm getting more comfortable speaking in front of a real audience or an imaginary audience.
Yeah, those are awesome. You bring up good memories. I used to sell cars when I was younger. I sold Porsches and BMWs in Corpus Christi, but there would only be like one customer a day, that would come in the first half of the morning, one customer at the end of the day. So it was like 2 times you got to talk to people. But I would, my boss used to always praise my work ethic because I would call all these people all morning long on the phone, past friends, connections, whoever. And I'd kind of get the engine rolling so that when somebody finally came up, I'd have that conversation. And it was like not my first conversation of the day. We had multiple runs. So you stretching yourself even on Facebook Live and reaching out to podcasters, things like that. I think that's awesome. It's a stretch. That's awesome, man. Good stuff. So I have a few more questions, but I want to make sure, before we wrap up, if our listeners and our viewers get some value from today, which I know they will, Jens, where should they reach out to you? What's the easiest way to get in your world?
Yeah, so they can go to opendoorscapital.com. That's my website, opendoorscapital.com. My email is Jens, Jens, at opendoorscapital.com. And if any of your listeners want to get on a free strategy call, talking about investing or coaching or anything like that, they can just go to opendoorscapital.com/call and schedule a free call with me. I do that all the time. I love talking to people. Even if you're a newbie, or even if you've done some stuff, man, let's connect and let's learn from each other. I always learn something from people, and hopefully they take away a few nuggets from me as well, right?
I would absolutely take advantage of that. If you're questioning on whether or not you're going to, waste this time or I'm not sure if I should, I would take advantage of that call and, learn a little bit more. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to make a new friend and, be able to learn a little nugget or two from Jens. So, man, I encourage you to do that. Okay. So, as towards the end, I always have, a few questions, a mindset. You brought a ton of value today. Is there anything that I haven't hit on, anything I haven't asked you about that, you really, just want to share, either passive investors, operators, whether they're, experts or newbies, whatever, starting out? What didn't I cover that you really wanted to share today?
I think the idea that you need to go out there and have somebody, spend some money to further your education, if that's coaching or if it's a seminar or a program. Don't be afraid to spend money, because there's so much money that can be made in this property, right? Sorry, this business. And I was a little bit kind of limiting beliefs around, I don't want to spend all this money, but it wasn't, my career was kind of like going kind of flat. And then I signed up for a coaching program and started working with meeting these people, and it just took off, right? So it's all about who you surround yourself with and getting the right guidance and mentorship and all that. That's really something I've learned a lot from and feel wholeheartedly it's worth it. And I spend literally tens of thousands of dollars myself on coaching every year. So it's totally worth it.
Totally worth it. I am 100% in agreement. Do you mind sharing like what you talk about, what you learn from in your education programs? Is it mentoring? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it a group setting? And what you really take from that, what you receive from that investment?
So are you talking about when the coaching I'm receiving?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess. Yeah.
So I started with like kind of an educational program, right, to learn the basics around real estate investing. How do you underwrite a deal and all those concepts around all that. So that was the basic education. And you can get that, either through a course, you can get it through books, you can listen to podcasts, you can learn a lot of that stuff. But then the next step was really the group coaching I started doing and started connecting with people and really starting having, that higher level of education. And then I went to actually hiring my own one-on-one coach, because I needed more on the mindset, more on the high performance side, because I was like, hey, I think I understand real estate investing. Where am I holding myself back as a person without realizing it? When am I not living up to my potential? What can I do by pushing myself even further, right? And my coach has helped me, taking more action, getting out of my W-2 job, and doing a lot of things that otherwise probably wouldn't have had the courage to go and do. So that's what the help I've seen.
Got it. Yeah, we have some similar backgrounds, I think, in this. Paid for education, joined like 4 different programs. I traveled to a bunch of cities before COVID, and took as much notes and education, soaked up as much as I could, and then ended up hiring a mentor and, got plugged into the network and then hired a one-on-one coach that was not specifically for real estate, but personally. So what value has that brought to you? In addition, like what you're saying, above and beyond real estate, how do you think this has changed you as an individual, as a person, and continue to grow?
I have made some significant changes over the last 6 months during, a very challenging time that otherwise wouldn't have happened. So I'm much more, I've developed my long-term vision and know what my life is going to be like in the future, what I'm striving for, right? I know what my deep down passions are. I've connected better with my spouse. I have been more vulnerable with my friends, just so much personal growth is just amazing, right? And I think really, if anything, if this whole real estate thing falls apart and I'm never going to do it again, all this new stuff I've learned, nobody can ever take that away from me, and I'm a much better person for that.
Yeah, man. Thank you for just being so open and a little vulnerable here and just sharing. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's obviously driven a lot of professional value, but more importantly, like you said, relationships. At the end of this thing, it's we're going to be accountable for something, someone, whatever. But your personal relationships that's really your life, right? And that's why we're doing this, investing more time, more freedom, and just being able to take advantage of that today is probably priceless for you. So that's great, man. That's good stuff. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. And Jens, I really sincerely appreciate, just coming on the show, sharing with our listeners. And, thank you very much. I'm humbled and appreciative of your time today, my friend.
Thanks, Abel. It was a lot of fun. Good luck with your podcast. I think you have a good model going here, so I'm excited to listen to more of those episodes.
That's great. And thank you. If you guys heard anything today that you really got a lot of value from, which I took at least a page of notes here, please share with Jens. Go to the 5 Talents podcast and leave us a review, a positive one. Leave Jens a little bit of feedback. I'm sure he'd love to hear it. And we appreciate you guys supporting us. So share this with somebody else. I appreciate it. And again, my name is Abel Pacheco with the 5 Talents podcast. If you have any questions about real estate investing, passive investing, you want to get some further education, coaching, you can go to our website, download some free guides or ebooks as well. And just go to this website right here, 5tcre.com, and look forward to it. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Jens. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents podcast.